Americans across the nation and people around the world continue to embrace their own ideas about Lincoln, often for their own reasons. The man presented in Lincoln Hall reflected the desires and hopes of a particular group of Illinois Americans during a time in American history characterized by both a newfound optimism in the possibilities of America as a nation of power and progress, and newfound anxieties about what America's future might hold. The Illinois Lincoln and the public Lincoln of Lincoln Hall in 1909 may have suggested to the university both a bit of promise and a bit of peril. This Lincoln, etched in the University of Illinois collective memory 100 years ago, was indeed figured for the times. However, even during his lifetime, Lincoln was a man upon which people projected their own views, consistent with their hopes and desires, their fears and anxieties.
Even then, people didn't know what was accurate about Lincoln. His law partner said he was the most tight-mouthed man he'd ever known. He talked all the time, telling stories, but not revealing who he was and what he was. And we probably will never know. It's about Lincoln and faith, what he really believed, all this. But I think we're getting a better sense of the ambiguities. I hope we're moving beyond this. It's all good or all bad into what I was trying to say today. He's human like all of us. Like all of us has his demons, his warts. But that what was great about him is compassion and his belief in his fellow man and his understanding. He really did not, he generally liked people, I think, and he didn't really understand why other people couldn't get along and things. But I think we're getting some very good portraits of him now.
The collective memory of Americans is a formulation of stories passed down, images that seem both imperceptible and ubiquitous, grade school songs and traditional patriotic celebrations. The American school child learns more about Lincoln from these sources than he or she ever will from reading academic biographies. Lincoln Hall is a part of this collective memory. It is hard to envision what a Lincoln Hall, started from scratch, would portray if it were constructed in 2009 rather than 1909. It seems likely, however, that it would seek to construct a private Lincoln, not just a public one. Americans have grown more and more concerned with the private lives of their leaders, so much so that the line between the private and the public has become increasingly difficult to place.
What we know about Lincoln's private life has also been made very public. So people have written books about his marriage, people have speculated about whether or not he was gay, people have speculated about whether or not he suffered from depression. All of these things that we would think of as part of someone's personal life, because everyone is so obsessed with Lincoln, they become a part of the public record as well. So I think it's important to not lionize public figures, to have a sense of them in their full humanity.
A Lincoln Hall constructed in 2009 might seek a more fully human Lincoln, and thus a more complex one. It is particularly vital to have a sense of Lincoln in his full humanity, as he has come to represent humanity itself. Was he at heart an abolitionist? Or, as some would have us believe, a racist? Was he a man of great virtue, as author and scholar William Lee Miller stated? Or did he think himself better than those around him? Lincoln, Miller writes in his novel entitled Lincoln's Virtues, an Ethical Biography, did not, if he could avoid it, hunt, fish, swear, fight, farm, perform manual tasks, gamble, despise Indians as many around him did, join the church as his family did, believe what his neighbors did. Indeed, it is true that rarely did Lincoln follow the crowd or simply act to maintain the status quo. A defining characteristic of Lincoln was his insistence that there was a truth, and he would trust himself to find it through education and the employment of sound logic. Yet this could mean that he was unlike most Americans, rather than the model American Lincoln Hall portrays him to be. Lincoln's complexities may be why we as a people are so able and so eager to claim him.
To claim Lincoln means to claim something about him that you value. So, and again, because he is this kind of enigmatic figure who can be made to, in some cases erroneously, he can be made to stand for all kinds of different political positions or social values. You can use his words to support almost any argument as long as you take them enough out of context. Because of all of that, he becomes, I guess, a kind of argument by authority for anything that you want to say.
Many colleges have historical connections to men who have shaped and influenced the America we see today. Benjamin Franklin answered the call for higher education and created the University of Pennsylvania. Thomas Jefferson is widely known for his intensive involvement in the architectural planning of the University of Virginia. And then there is Abraham Lincoln and the University of Illinois. Unlike Franklin and Jefferson, Lincoln's connection is not as concrete. Lincoln did not spend time poring over blueprints and attending groundbreaking ceremonies. Nevertheless, people today are calling the University of Illinois Mr. Lincoln's University. Why? What for?
Of course, we know that Lincoln didn't go here or architecture, but it was the land of Lincoln. This is the great public university of Illinois. Wisconsin or some other land grant school could say, well, why not us? Well, they're not the land of Lincoln. It's Illinois. That's what it is. I think it takes a little bit of imagination.
For Burton and many others, it is not just the signing of the Morrill Act that creates a special bond between Lincoln and the University of Illinois. It is the need for unification on a campus that has been divided over the controversy of mascot Chief Illiniwek. Divided as the campus and community have been over the chief, Burton believes Lincoln offers the hope of a new symbol of unity. The bicentennial of Lincoln's birth, in his view, provides an opportune moment for new portraits of Lincoln and a new symbol for the university.
Well, I think the bicentennial will raise his standards a lot. What the most interesting thing will be how African Americans come to view him again, going from one extreme to another. Where will they see Lincoln, I think. But I think Lincoln will always, he captures the American imagination of what America is all about, from poverty. No other president really rose from poverty. The closest thing might be Bill Clinton, but he wasn't really from poverty. But Lincoln was self-made, belief in the rule of law, cautious, but gentle, but tough enough to fight this war through to the end. I think that's the picture's going to emerge eventually, and the bicentennial will get a lot of good portraits of Lincoln.
Indeed, the bicentennial has created a revived interest in Lincoln. This year, the university is holding events, performances, projects, speakers, exhibits, and classes, all dedicated to commemorating and expanding people's knowledge on Abraham Lincoln. Not coincidentally, this excitement has created a revived interest in Lincoln Hall. A building once bustling with students hurrying to class is now silent, as university officials wait for the appropriation of funds to renovate it, so it can continue to house student learning and memorialize our 16th president.
Over the years, that building has become the most used building in terms of classrooms, and practically every single freshman and sophomore will take classes in that building. So over the years, it's worn out. It's not air conditioned. It doesn't have the proper heating today. Wood floors, and all of these things wear out. And so then it was determined that it should be renovated. And for the last 6 years, the money for renovating it has been postponed. And so the administration was fairly confident that they were going to get money in this last legislative session. And so they said, let's vacate the building, because it has to be vacated in order to renovate it. It would be rather unsafe to have students and faculty while we're tearing down walls and redoing floors. And so the decision was made to empty the building of classes. And then the money was not forthcoming.